Good evening. It is Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com. How are you? I'm saying that, and I know that unless you're watching this on the recording, you probably won't see this first bit. But anyway, for those of you that are watching those of you that are watching on the recording, I shall give you a very special, festive hello right here, right now, because yeah, unless you are watching the recording, anyone who jumps on live from now on won't obviously see this bit. So this bit is just for you wonderful recording people who I know are out there and watch the confidence conversation avidly from the secrets of your shower or your commute to work and various places. So that is my hello to you. And for those of you that are just joining live now, this is my hello for you. How are you doing? It's lovely to have you here this evening. And please do drop down and say hi, because it's always great to know who's here. As I say every time on this, it's great to know you're here, who's here and who I can say hi to. So yeah, please do feel free. I have no idea what's going on with my speech patterns today, so I'm going to give you an apology up front. I don't seem to be fully on my vocabulary, so I might stumble over words and forget what I'm saying or say all sorts of random things at the moment. So I apologise up front. Good evening, Tiffany. It's lovely to have you here, and I'm apologise again that I let you down last week after you had your cup of tea ready to go. So yeah, apologies for that. Couldn't be helped. I hope everybody else that's joining live is in good fettle and keeping yourself nice and warm wherever you are in the world. Unless you're obviously somewhere that's really hot, then I hope you're nice and cool. But I am for certain keeping myself nice and warm yeah, snuggling up because it's chilly this evening. So yeah, I cannot quite believe that this is the last confidence conversation of 2018. If you didn't get the memo, then why are you not on my mailing list for a start off? Good evening, Caroline. Haven't seen you for a while, my lovely. I hope you're well. Then you can head to my website, which I should just put in here if I can type fast enough. Hopefully I can type my own name and talk at the same time. But you can go to my website, juleswyman.com, and if you look where it says 7 Keys of Confidence, you can download that for free by putting in your email address and then tick the box there. So it makes sure that you can subscribe to the mailing list, which keeps you updated of any information and changes and events. And yeah, because I might start doing some live events again next year, but we shall wait and see. I've got this tiny little fly that keeps whizzing around, so if I do this, then I've not lost the plot, although that is possible as well. So yes, this evening, so this is a bit of an interesting question. And for those of you who might be watching this for the first time and joining for the first time, welcome. There are obviously don't go and look at it now, but there are on this page, if you look, depends on what device you're looking at it on, but there is a tab that says videos. And if you look on there, you can access all of the previous videos, and there is nearly 2.5, no, in fact, there will be more than 2.5 years worth of videos there. So yeah, if you don't want to subscribe to Netflix or Amazon Prime, then it's all there for you for free. There's a free series on there for you. And you can watch my ever-changing hairstyles and facial expressions in all these different guises. Hi, Fiona. I hope you're feeling better, my darling. I missed you last week at the event. So yeah, so if you're joining for the first time, I'll give you a bit of an overview of how these sessions work. And this is the last one for this year, mainly because next Monday is Christmas Eve. And my guess is, like myself, many people are going to be caught up with family and friends, which is, you know, potentially a great thing. So that's why I decided that I won't do one next week. And then the following week, obviously, is New Year's Eve. And again, people I know tend to do things, whether that's going out for a meal or having a party or hiding under the duvet, whatever it may be. So I thought that I would give myself a bit of a break over those two and start full on in January don't actually know what the first, I think it'll probably be around about the 7th of January. If you know what the first Monday in January is, then please do let me know. Put it in the comments below. And for those of you that are joining live, cheers. Please do drop down and say hi. It's always nice to be able to give people a shout out, as I have been able to with Tiffany and Caroline. The other things to remember as I go through these, as those of you who have watched these a number of times will also know, is that if things that I'm saying are making sense, then I welcome thumbs up, hearts, to give me an understanding that it's making sense for you, because if we were doing this in person, I would check in with you. If it's not making sense, rather than do an angry emoji or what's the other one, the sad emoji, then let me know in the comments if it's not making sense, because I'd love, the whole point of this is that they're meant to be discussions. Sometimes I know some of you are a bit shy or don't like interacting too much, which is absolutely fine. It just means that I waffle on for the whole 30 minutes. But please don't wait. If you've got something you want to comment on, share an insight, whether it's from this one or from others. I'm just going to check whoever's still on live. I didn't actually check, but I'm just noticing the numbers are going up and down very, very quickly. And that potentially might mean that the connection's not very good. So if you're watching this live, would you do me a favor and let me know whether you can see this okay, or whether there are problems with it? It all looks to be okay on my phone. I don't want to open that up in case that causes a problem with more devices on the internet. I'm going to keep going, but if you could let me know, can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Let me know, give me some thumbs up, or let me know in the comments section. I'd be really grateful. You can see that my hair's a bit windswept and interesting this evening. Okay, so that's how it all works, and how it's good evening, Claire. I'm assuming by Claire, can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Everyone else seems to have gone a bit quiet at the moment, and I was just looking at the numbers were flicking backwards and forwards, and quite often that means that there's a problem with the internet connection. So if you can see or see and hear me, just give me some thumbs up or some hearts. I don't know what that is. That's oh, I can't do it now. There we go. Then let me know. And maybe it's because you can't hear me that you are not doing any thumbs up or hearts or comments. I don't know. So maybe I will risk it on here. Oh, no. It dropped, then it connected again. All good now. Brilliant. Thank you, Tiffany. Okay, then. So the only other thing that I haven't mentioned so far, thank you, Caroline. Absolutely brilliant. Really appreciate that, ladies. Hi, Alison. Hi, Lisa. Lovely to have you here. Yeah, so likes and hearts throughout. Let me know when things are making sense. Thank you for all the hearts that are coming in now. That's awesome. Yay, Alison. First live one, hey? Excellent. Saves watching it on the recording instead. Thank you, Claire, for letting me know that. That's brilliant. I'd quite happily sit and talk to myself, as I do most of the time anyway. But it's always nice. The whole purpose of it is having something to share. It would be a bit of a shame, especially with the topic that I've been asked to share this evening. So I'll give you an overview of the question has come in slightly different guises from a number of different people. And their questions are far more specific, but there was a theme that was going on, hence the topic about how to be around people that are different to you. So it is quite generic, and for any of you, if you're one of the people that have messaged me about this, or if I've had a conversation with you in person about this and you've asked that question, then I apologize for it being generic, but it's the only way to answer this from all those different angles, and make it accessible for everybody, really, without it being specifying it. There's lots of erming going on tonight. So it's basically, the conversation really was about how can you be around people that are different to you, and potentially that may be in a work context, or it may be in a social context. but it was coming in different ways. So as I said, I'm keeping this fairly generic for you, but there are certain things, and I think that this is something that comes up a number of times this time of year, because very often, whether we're at social events, we might get on fine with our work colleagues in the work environment, but then we might be in a social Christmas party environment, or be invited to somebody's house, and we're used to being around people, we're used to being around them, but not the rest of their family. Or it may be that I've had a few conversations about this in two different ways, about being in a different environment and not actually understanding what's being said. And that was because the language was different and the accents were different. So there were some complications there. And, you know, it may be that you know the environment very well. It may be a family environment, but it's not necessarily being an easy one that you're in or you enjoy. So give me some thumbs up or hearts if you know that at some point in the next month you might have to be around people that are different to you. And I'll give you a hint, really and truly. Every one of us should be doing thumbs up because everybody's different to us. But you know what I mean. I think, well, I'm assuming you know what I mean. So what I wanted to share this evening, and for those of you who are only just joining, thank you very much. It's great to have you here. Please do. Excellent. It's making sense. The thumbs are coming in. Please do drop down and say hi. It's always love to give you a shout out. And equally, as people were just doing them with their thumbs, let me know if things are making sense, or if you have any questions or comments or insights as we go through this conversation. It is meant to be a conversation, so that means it's two-way, not just one way. But drop in and yeah, make comments at any point. Please, in other words, what I'm saying is, please don't wait to be invited to type a comment. If you've got something you want to ask or share, please do. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into, and these are, as you can tell, I don't usually have as many notes on a topic, but this is, as I say, it's such a broad topic, and there are a lot of different things that this can impact. So I just wanted to plant some seeds, really and truly, to give you an opportunity to think about things in various different ways. And one of the things that I wanted to, I'm going to start off with this. I've actually written it at the bottom, but I am going to start off with this quote, and it actually came on my, oh, my tea bag's fallen in now. But on these, I'll pull the tag off. On the tea bags that I use, one of the brands that I use, they're called Yogi Teas, if you can see that. And on the back of the tag, it's a bit soggy, dropped in my my cup. They have quotes. The one for this evening, it says, you are equally as beautiful as the universe. I'll take that. But when I was writing this out, what I found was really interesting, and I love how this works, is I was collating all the questions and recognized that this theme was coming out about being around people that don't understand, are difficult, it's a challenge, don't want to be there, etc., etc. And I happened to look over at my mug at the Yogi Tea bag, and it said on it, compassion has no limit and kindness has no energy. Energy. Start again. I did warn you that my speech was all over the place this evening. Compassion has no limit. Kindness has no enemy. And that's the theme. I'll come back to that at the end, and feel free, if anybody wants to type that in, then please do. Compassion has no limit. Kindness has no enemy. And I thought that would be a great starting point for us, because I think that when we're around people that are difficult, different, a challenge, is not where we would choose to be, but we happen to be there, etc., etc. I think those two things for me definitely always make a big difference. Kindness and compassion, always starting off with self-kindness and self-compassion. It's always towards myself first, because when I am practicing self-compassion and when I am practicing self-kindness, I always notice the difference that then makes. So using that as our foundation, one of the first things that I want to put out there is around, as I said earlier, about one of the main things was about language. And I've been to a number of places over the last few years where I've been the only British person, so the only person where English was their first language. And I'm very lucky that my language is English is a language that is spoken in many, many countries. I'm very aware that other people's therefore isn't. So if I'm in a culture, so one of the arenas I was in recently, there were people from the Netherlands, there was somebody there from Belgium, and there were people there from South Africa, there were people there from Hungary. So there are lots of different dialects, lots of different accents. And I'm conscious, especially if I'm speaking in that environment, but even if I'm having a conversation with people, to maybe slow down my language just a little bit, because I can have a tendency, especially if I get really excited, that without even realizing it, I'm speaking at 100 miles an hour, and it's such a brilliant thing, and I want to share it with everybody, and I get over the top, blah, 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 and before I know it, and if you're in person, one of the things I would offer out for you to start to do is watch people's facial expressions, because quite often you can see that they're not necessarily getting what you're saying. And therefore, just pausing every so often, taking a breath in, slowing your speech down a bit. It doesn't have to be really slow, but just slowing it down can help other people in that sense. And I would say never underestimate the translation power that somebody, if English isn't their first language, or whatever the environment is that you're in is your native language, they have to go through, even though they might have a very, very fast translation process, they still have to go through that. And the other thing I would add into that, and I suppose this is personal because my dad had hearing problems, and it affects a number of our family members and has done over the years for a while. And I'm really, good evening, Chloe. I am therefore aware that quite often people don't necessarily hear, and many people, not all obviously, but many people don't feel comfortable with flagging up. You know, quite often people are uncomfortable that sharing that I can't hear what they're saying. They feel, some people seem to feel embarrassed by it, or just a sense of discomfort, or it makes them feel vulnerable. So they might just be nodding along, or they might go really quiet and retract themselves. But actually what can be going on is that they may not be able to hear. And I was even out with some friends at the weekend, and we were in a bar, and all of us were like leaning in, and the music, I wouldn't have said was excruciatingly loud, but it was loud enough that for two of the group, they were having a challenge that if there's that background noise, they find it hard to hear people's language. So it's just worth bearing that in mind if you're being around people that are different to you. There's that fly again. To take those two things into account. So let me know if that makes sense. And the other thing as well is, I don't know if you're aware, but the majority of us, good evening, Shelley, the majority of us also, without realizing it, slightly lip read. So if we are, for whatever reason, covering our mouths, for whatever reason that may be, that can sometimes make it a real challenge for people to understand. And you may be thinking, well, hang on a second, Jules, this is meant to be about how I can deal with being around those difficult people, or those different people, or people I'm, not necessarily, I don't know very well. Surely I shouldn't be doing all the work. Well, yeah, yeah. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of his main things, let me know, by the way, if this is making sense for you, but he said, so if you want to be understood, seek first to understand. And I think when we can put ourselves, that's why I love the compassion and kindness aspect of it, and having that as a foundation, because then when we do that, we're coming with it from a very different intent. It's about, how can I connect with the other person? How can I support them? How can I help them? It's making sense to a couple of people at least anyway. And a big fat yes from Chloe. Fabulous, thank you very much. So those things are important, and especially if, as I say, if you know somebody and they speak amazing English, but English is not their first language, then just be aware of that. Oh, there's some sad and angry faces. Let me know if that means that something's confusing. If it is, then let me know what it is that's confusing. I know sometimes people hit it by mistake. Don't worry if you hit it. If you don't happen to hit it by mistake, then that's fine too. It's just I like to be able to have a conversation to see if I can help you understand. But yeah, it's never underestimating that very often people are challenged with listening and hearing what is going on. So that was one of the first things that I wanted to share with you. Then there are some other things as well, which is, and some of this goes back to the Stephen Covey quote, which is, to be understood first, seek first to understand. So look at it from their perspective. And I think very often, and I've certainly been, I've fallen foul of this, is forgetting the perspective that person lives from, and has grown up in. So, there are very similar patterns that happen with the various generations, for example, but I wouldn't carte blanche put it across for everybody. But it is worth bearing in mind the cultural environment that person grew up with. You don't need to do a little survey beforehand. So tell me, when were you born, and what was your religious background, and how were you brought up? When you listen to somebody, you can get a sense of sort of like their view of the world. And very often people think that they have to get somebody else's perspective. They have to really understand, they have to agree with somebody else. And actually it's not about that. It's about having a perspective of from them, where they could be coming from. So seek to understand their world, have that conversation about them. And again, it may not be the most easy thing in the world to just be talking about one particular person. But if you actually just want to relax and connect with them, then very often that is the easiest way, in all honesty, because most people, not all, again, are more comfortable with talking about topics that relate to them, whether that's about them personally, whether it's about a passion or a hobby of theirs. So have a bunch of questions. If you're going to be around people that are different to you, have a bunch of standard questions that you can ask to get the conversation going. But then, you're not going to be a reporter that pulls out and says, right, okay, so now I've asked you the one on where you were growing up and what your religious background was. Now let's talk about your politics and your schooling. And it's not like that. Have a couple of them and mix them up. Before you meet these people that are different to you, but then listen to what they're saying, not for, what can I say next, but listen, because people do tell you more than they realize, just with the way that they describe something or what they share. So listen to them, and that's when you can start the conversation. That's when you can really connect with them in a different sense. Let me know if that's making sense. And obviously, if you have any questions, then please do ask. If this is making sense, no, I was just saying that. If it's not making sense, then let me know as well. So yeah, just comment away. Let me know it's making sense. And I'm very aware that this time I've got loads written down here, and time as ever is running away. Okay, so one of the things. I've kind of said that. There's some thumbs coming up now. Thank you. Okay, I can see what I can do here. Right, sorry about that. As I said, I don't usually have as many notes, but I knew that there were certain things with this one I really wanted to make sure that I hit. I love listening to people talk as well, Shelley. I'm glad I get paid for it, but equally, I need to stop doing it in cafes. I earwig far too much. I know that when I used to work in theatres, there's a particular playwright and director that I've worked with who's very famous in that field. and he used to carry a notebook around with him. I know that there's a number of writers that do this, and he just used to sit very close to people. He'd scan a room in a cafe or restaurant and see who was chatting the most, and just position himself as close as possible. Not to not to copy what they were saying, but just if there were any snippets or anything that they said that was really funny, he'd write those down and then weave them in if it was appropriate for the character. Anyway, I digress. So something that I know that a lot of people are challenged with, and this comes up quite a lot. Hey Lenka, that I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves to remember people's names, remember connections, remember places, etc., etc. And then if they forget, then they kind of clam up and do everything possible. They're kind of they end up working overtime to try and cover it up. Now, I've been on both ends of this, where I can see somebody, they'd forgotten my name, didn't know how to introduce me to somebody, and it was a real challenge. Now, I could have been very mean and just gone, right, let me watch them squirm. But I didn't. The person they were with, before they could finish, I interrupted and said, oh, sorry to interrupt you, my name's, and I immediately put my hand out to the new person to help this other person out, because it's not fair on them if they're squirming. And the majority of people, for some reason, don't seem to want to say, through embarrassment or whatever it is, I'm really sorry I've forgotten your name, or I'm really sorry how we met, or whatever it may be, rather than just saying, sorry, I don't know. And I do think that we therefore put so much pressure on ourselves, when in fact we could take a step back and we could just be a bit more generous to ourselves and kind to ourselves and compassionate to ourselves and go, I'm having one of those days and I just cannot remember people's names today. I'm sorry. What was your name again? Or I'm sorry, I know we met at an event earlier this year, but I cannot for the life of me remember which one. Being honest in that sense, whilst it may not feel comfortable for you, it stops putting you can then relax in the conversation, as opposed to thinking, I can't remember their name, I can't remember their name, I can't remember their name. Just ask. Just make it easier on yourself where that's concerned. There's lots of thumbs and hearts and angry faces again. I am going to assume that the angry face and the sad face was just a slip of hand, but if it is not, then please do let me know, because as I say, this is not like because I'm like, you mustn't be angry or sad. It's not that at all. It's just that if there's something that I've said that you don't agree with, or it's not understanding, then I love to have a conversation. Not because I want to convince you of my point of view, but sometimes I know that I don't always communicate effectively. And at times I need to clarify what I've said. So if it's not making sense, then please do let me know. If it is making sense, let me know. Okay, so I've mentioned about the language barriers. I've mentioned about accents and being very careful and aware that that can have an impact on people, and if you're around people that are different, then that can have a challenge. I've mentioned about hearing challenges and sight challenges that people don't always flag up, so we might need to be aware of that. I've said about ask for clarity with regards to people's names or places or connections or whatever. Don't put that pressure on yourself to remember those. I've mentioned about Stephen Covey's seek first to be understood, seek first to understand, which I do love, and it is something that reminds me. And I think also the other thing that I found really useful to remember, and this came from my coach years back, I remember him saying to me, we were having a conversation about something, and I said, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. And he laughed and he said, I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you, and they're two different things. And I remember at the time I was like, oh, how dare he get the nail on the head there? Because he was right. I wasn't actually looking for him to understand. I wanted him to agree. And I think very often we are looking, when we seek to understand, or sorry, seek to be understood, we're actually looking for somebody to agree with us. So just bear that in mind when you're being around different people as well. I've mentioned about watching people's faces because they give clues as to whether they can hear, whether they can understand, and all of that side of things. And then I've just written here, which is most of all, seek to speak and listen with kindness, whoever you're around. It's not about agreeing with people, but seek that compassion and that kindness as you go through this. And again, that quote off my Yogi Tea, hashtag Yogi Tea. That's not a very good hashtag, and that was just very not down with the kids, was it? Is that compassion, and in fact, I shall type this so that if you want to keep it, you can. Compassion has no limit. You could probably type it for yourself in this speed that I'm doing it. And kindness has no, and I can't spell, me. My Yogi Tea. So, how does 30 minutes go so fast? So fast. Okay, so I've covered everything that I wanted to. As I said, this is a bit of an odd question / answer to a number of questions because they were all coming in at different angles, and I just wanted to give, I realized that they don't all immediately fit the same question, if that makes sense, but I wanted to make sure I gave it as an overview because I am aware at this time of year many people are around those that they maybe wouldn't normally have spend so much time with, or maybe they're people that they don't always find it easy. I can honestly say that since practicing the art of compassion, or practicing compassion and practicing kindness, and more specifically practicing self-compassion and self-kindness, it's just made a massive difference to how I interact with others. So that really would be my invitation, which is why I wanted to share that quote with you. So as I wrap up, anybody got any other thoughts, any thumbs, any shares, any hearts? Let's see if I can actually do one this time. Shelley says, when I was at dance class last Tuesday, I could not remember the new lady's name on our table. Other friends with me felt the same and didn't want to ask, but I decided just to be honest, and she was lovely about it. Love it. Love that, Shelley. And I think that I think it's such a strangely common thing. I quite often, because when I'm doing the training, with people, I do like to do my best to remember their names during the day. And I'm not great at remembering foreign sounding names. So quite often I will ask them to spell it out, or something that works for me. If there's a register, then as they come in, I will fill it in so that I can then see how to spell it, and I will look for how to phonetically sound it. I might get interested in where the name comes from and does it have a meaning in that language, and that just asking those kinds of questions really helps resonate things in for me and helps me hold it in. Claire says, the thing to remember is that they're probably as kind of uncomfortable as you are. Yeah, absolutely, Claire. And I think that's one of the common things that I say in so many of the trainings that I do is it's not just you. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, I can pretty much guarantee that somebody else is experiencing something similar. Not the same as you, because only you can experience it, but similar. So if there's a discomfort of, oh, I've forgotten that person's name, then just ask. Just ask. Sandra, thank you. I am honest all of the time, and no one today has been offended when I say I can't remember their name, and they often laugh and say they have too. Perfect. You see, I love it. I love it. And thank you, ladies. I'm saying ladies only because I haven't seen any gentlemen comments so far. Doesn't mean to say that you're not there in the background. But thank you. I really appreciate your comments there, Shelley, Claire and Sandra, because I think it's important for the other people watching this to recognize that it's not just me saying it, that other people have got experience of that as well. So I have overrun, and this is the last confidence conversation of this year. So before I wrap up, I do want to say a few words of gratitude to you all. If you're new to this, then you possibly won't understand what I'm about to say, because this is more for those who have been here throughout this year. And you know that this year has been quite a challenging year for me due to my health. And I've probably cancelled or had to postpone far more of the confidence conversations than I would have liked. And it's been really tough. And me cancelling things is not something that comes easy to me. But when you're in hospital and there's no internet connection, kind of don't have a choice, really. And also, you really wouldn't want to have seen me like that. But anyway, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to those of you who have supported the confidence conversation throughout the year, even though it's been far more bitty than it has been previously. Thank you for your messages of support to me personally. Some of you messaged me on here, some of you have emailed me, and I'm extremely grateful, because there are times when I do wonder whether I should continue with this, whether I put too much pressure on myself for being here every Monday night. But as I said, my intent behind doing this is to make some of this information accessible. And even if it's planting a seed that gives you the opportunity to go and recognize a book, or if I share a quote or a story that's happened to me, or something that plants a seed to help you through a particular situation or start you on your journey, then that's my intent behind this. So I've wanted to do my best throughout a challenging year to be here and continue that. And I would be sat here on a Monday night talking to myself if it wasn't for you and your gorgeousnesses being there. And whether you are watching it live or whether you're watching it on the recording, and some of the videos now I've had like 1,500 people watching, and I know that comes from you sharing it. I know that comes from your comments and how you interact with it. So I really am very, very grateful that you continue to support this. I have got some plans for it next year, which I will be sharing with you. But yeah, I just wanted to say a very a deep felt gratitude to all that you've done, even just by showing up and interacting, even by watching. Then, you know, all of that, I really hope that these videos are of value for you, and that they help you or somebody in your life in some way, shape or form, because that's their intent. So however you spend this time of year, and whoever you spend this time of year with, have a wonderful time. And if you're somebody that's being on your own for whatever reason, then practice the art of compassion and kindness. And please remember that if you are somebody who gets challenged, whether that be through mental health challenges or having anxiety attacks or feeling panicky or upset or worried, or however that may show up for you over this time of year, please do remember there are people out there, helplines that are there to support. I would love to say that I can be there for you over the festive period, but I know that where I'm going to be doesn't have a great internet connection, so I wouldn't be able to put that as a commitment out. But I know that there are plenty of people out there, and the best I can offer you from my perspective are all the recordings that are there, all the videos for the last 2.5 years. So thank you so much. Have an absolutely wonderful time, however you spend the next few weeks. And I look forward to catching you in 2019. I'm just going to read out some of the comments here. Shelley says, have a lovely Christmas, Jules. Thank you, Shelley. Chloe says, looking forward to seeing you over the Christmas period. Yeah, I might hide from you. Chloe's my niece, in case you didn't know. Have a wonderful Christmas. I hope you're well now, and thank you for giving your time. Who was that from? It's not popped up. Let me do that. Sandra, thank you. Yes, I'm on the mend, not fully there yet. Got a little way to go, but definitely heading in the right direction. Claire says, wishing you a happy Christmas, Jules, and a healthy new year. I'm all down for the healthy year. Yes. Alison says, well done. You have a very lovely break. Thank you, Alison. It's lovely to have had you here live, and thank you for supporting the recordings. Shelley says, big hugs. You're wonderful. Thank you for being you. Back at you as well as receiving. And Rachel says, hey, Rachel, I didn't realize you were on here. Happy Christmas, lovely, and thank you for your conversations this year. You are so welcome, my darling. Chloe, I will continue to run so that you can't find me. It's annoying when your family do stalky things, isn't it? Turn up on your Facebook lives and just want attention. Caroline says, wishing you a happy Christmas and New Year. Always look forward to these lives. See you in the new year. Thank you, my lovely. Well, there you go. 10 minutes longer than I had anticipated, but as I say, because it's the last one of this year, I really did just want to say thank you. So have a wonderful time, and I will look forward to catching up with you even. I swear this is only tea. It's nothing else in it. I don't drink alcohol anymore. Crazy. Have a wonderful festive time. Lots of love and blessings to you all. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in 2019 in 3 weeks' time. Take care. Bye now.